Okay, welcome to the Alien 3 podcast. This is the third part of our Alien series that we're doing here. My name's Cody, and
Mac
is here as well. So Alien 3. See, the first two, people have their favorites, but everybody likes Alien. Everybody likes Aliens. This is where it starts to divide the men from the boys. Opinions vary wildly on this movie. So, initial response to it. First off, what version did you watch? And then how did you feel about whatever version you watched first?
Okay, so the first version I watched was the theatrical version, and after going to the end credits, I thought to myself, "Well, this has to be some sort of joke. Where's the real version?" I was, from the get-go, the first scene, finding out that Hicks, Newt, and Bishop, he's not dead, mostly dead. He's mostly dead.
For all intents and purposes. Yeah.
But finding out they're basically just been, whacked off in their sleep, that was like the big slap in the face. I'm like, oh boy, this is...
Didn't bring the actors back, nothing.
No,
yeah.
Didn't bring it back. So it was going to be a rough ride, and it really was. It was a hard movie to get through. The other movies, I was never looking at my watch to see how long we were in the movie. This one, I was just couldn't wait for the movie to be over.
Wow. Okay, that's quite the quote to put on the poster. Couldn't wait for the movie to be over. I had a little bit of a different experience just because I watched the. It's not a director's cut, but like the assembly cut or the work print, whatever you call it, the longer version. From 2003, I watched that the first, and I had some of the same problems with it because I hated they killed off Hicks and Newt and everything. But that movie, that version of it, is it's a much better movie. I don't know that it makes it a good movie, but it's a much better movie than the theatrical version because I did the opposite. I saw that first, and then I went back to watch the theatrical cut, and I couldn't get through the theatrical cut because it seems very rushed and slow at the same time, and I had a very similar reaction, but I responded much more positively to the longer version. And we'll get into the differences and stuff later on, but just positive, just like initial response, it was a good solid 3 out of 5 for me, which is a positive, but just barely positive, Actually, the more we've studied about it and the more we've gotten ready for this podcast, actually I've gotten to like it more. As I've learned more about the ideas behind it and whatever else. So nowhere near as good as the first two, but it's not a terrible movie in my eyes, in any estimation.
Yeah. Well, having watched both versions myself, I guess the best way I can describe it is that I don't think it's a terrible movie. I just think it's a terrible Alien movie.
Oh, okay.
I thought to myself, there were a lot of good ideas, put on the board in the movie. But if it was, a different Alien, or if it wasn't an Alien movie, I would have liked it a little bit more. Because watching the other two and saying, okay, this is Alien, this is Aliens, my standards are raised, and this one is kind of like not bad, but maybe for something that wasn't Alien, that it would have been better.
I see what you're saying. Okay, well, and I think that the weakest parts of the movie are the things that look back. If that makes sense, like the Weyland-Yutani stuff at the end doesn't really work for me. The stuff with the alien is not my favorite stuff either. Like, it's a lot of chasing through the halls and whatever else. I like the stuff with the prisoners, though. I like the stuff with Ripley and where she's going. So it is the stuff that is not like an Alien movie that is the strongest stuff. So I see where you're coming from there. What would you have rather seen? You know what I'm saying? Like, if somebody was going to come to you and say, all right, Alien and Aliens has been made, like, what kind of stuff? I'm not saying you tell me the story you would tell, but, like, what are the big things you want in an Alien movie? What makes a good Alien movie for you?
Well, I think I'd have to start with, like, say, we saw the ending of Aliens, and we saw that, Ripley, Hicks, and Newt, and even Bishop had kind of built up this kind of ragtag kind of family. So I just would have, started from there and, just build from that, I think some of the scariest things in the world are something that a family has to face together. And I felt like that was completely thrown out the window when Alien 3 showed up. So whatever it was, sure they could be at the prison, fine. But keep around the family that was made at the end of Aliens.
I see. Would you have gone back for the scarier tone of the first one, or would you have stayed with the action tone, or would you have tried something else?
I think it would probably be a blend of both.
Okay.
If I had to lean one way or the other, I'd probably lean a little bit more towards the action. But definitely still remind the audience that the aliens are a genuine threat. I read, I forget what the name of the author was, but an original script was made, that would keep, Hicks and Bishop in, and it involves them going to like a space station and aliens showing up, and that was a lot more exciting to read or just to hear about than watching in Alien 3. And I don't want to keep drawing comparisons to what didn't happen and what did happen, but what I would have liked to see is just something that one keeps the characters I like in it, and see them go into bit of an action / horror kind of situation.
I'd say the people who made this movie did not know what they wanted to make.
Oh, yeah.
Like, because if you watch the behind the scenes stuff, and we discussed this before the podcast a little bit, in a lot of ways, the behind the scenes stuff is more interesting than the movie itself.
Oh yeah.
And I have this big coffee table book about the Alien movies, and it has this gorgeous production art that was from you've got it written down here. What's his name? Vincent Ward's idea for the movie. So famously, Vincent Ward was going to make Alien 3. And he's more of an artsy-fartsy kind of a director guy. And it was going to be a wooden planet made with like monks who hated technology. So basically Amish monks on a wooden planet in space.
Yeah. Which I think is a great idea. I just don't think it belongs in an Alien movie. That's my thought.
See, I'm like, because I don't know. The only thing I would challenge you on with that is when the first Alien came out, it's a very elegant movie. It sets up the things very much. But if you had taken that as your blueprint, then I don't know that you would have gone as the direction that Aliens went. Because it's a totally different genre.
Yeah.
It's a totally different thing. And so if you had limited yourself after the first one, said that's what an Alien movie is, we would never have gotten Aliens.
That's okay. You got me there. That's a good point.
And so I think as long as the movie is good, and as long as the creature is a creative threat, then those are like I have very minimal requirements for an Alien movie. But like I said, is the movie has to be good. I have to care about the characters, and the alien has to be creative. It has to like surprise you, which is what those first two movies do really well, because you have the face hugger and you're like, what the heck, what's going to happen with that? And then it's little when it pops out of poor Kane, and then it gets huge, and it's like it keeps changing, and so you never know what to expect. And then in Aliens you have the same thing, because you're like, it's so hard to kill one of these things, and then oh my gosh, there's 50 of them. And also we get the alien queen, which is a whole new thing. So we're learning more about the creature. It's changing. It's creative. It's a threat. Alien 3 gives us really nothing new.
Yeah. I mean, what they were going for was they wanted to make an alien that was more like, beast-like. And, it didn't behave in the same kind of way. It could spit, acid, But I kind of feel like it didn't really up, the ante in terms of, threat level. Something I read for like an alternate story. They actually turned into a comic book.
Really?
For the the one where Bishop and Hicks are still alive. But how the alien worked in that was that essentially what it does is the alien can spread its essence, like make a virus. So the alien itself grows inside of you and then pops out full alien. And it can happen to anybody.
They kind of did that with Alien Covenant. Because in Alien Covenant, remember, they go on the planet, the thing goes in the guy's ear, and then all of a sudden aliens are popping out of him. So I don't know if they
watched Alien Covenant yet.
Oh, well, it's in the first 10 minutes, so I didn't know anything. And it's in the trailer, so. But yeah.
Okay, so that's where you want to go. You want to make the alien more of a threat. Alien 3, it just didn't do it for me. It just kind of felt like a retread of the first Alien.
Well, and that's reading the behind the scenes stuff. That's when that Vincent Ward guy took off. Is because the studio kept pushing back and saying no, it needs to be more like the original. And he had these ideas for like not only the wooden planet, but like when Ripley crashes down on it, she brings the devil with her.
Yeah,
it's this big religious quasi like visions of hell kind of a thing, and it sounds cool as a movie. But I get what you're saying when it doesn't sound like an Alien movie, because it would have to feel like a piece with the other two. And I don't even know exactly what that means, but it does have to feel like it connects.
Yeah.
And I can see how there'd be a danger of getting too far away.
Yeah, and maybe saying it's not it would be a bad idea for an alien movie isn't the right word. I think maybe it would be better if it wasn't Ripley who had that happen to her. Like it'd be good for like say a spin-off kind of alien movie, not like a main trilogy sort of movie. You know?
I see what you're saying, and I do feel bad. That's one of the things that I feel bad about, because Sigourney Weaver is very good in all three movies. Mm-hmm. Like, and to be honest, she might be some of her best stuff is in Alien 3. But I feel bad for the character because the character never gets a break.
Yeah,
you know, like as soon as the alien takes over the ship, and in the first movie, you're not even sure she's the main character. Mm-hmm. You know, until the end when she survives. In the second one, she gets that she becomes a mother metaphorically, and you get all that stuff. And in this third one, she's just loses everything at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then has to just keep going. And she's with all these horrible people.
Yeah.
You know, so
rapists, murderers, and like they're very far from being positive people too in general. You know, and sometimes they're even. It just felt like she was, knocked down in the beginning of the movie, and she's continually being kicked while she's down.
And she's impregnated with an alien now, so she's gonna die. And that's one thing that I really liked about the longer version too. And by the way, we should put a little note: spoilers left and right.
Oh yeah, yeah. What are you doing watching this? If you haven't watched Alien 3, you got problems, man.
But I hate this. That's not too strong a word. I hate when she falls into the lava at the end and the alien comes out of her and she like snuggles it to her chest.
Yeah,
I hate that, and I love the fact that in the longer version she just falls in the lava.
Yeah, and like the thing is, you never know if it was gonna come out, all the way. I thought that was better. It wasn't. It didn't redeem the whole movie, but it was definitely better than the theatrical cut.
Well, and the special effects on that were kind of hokey. In fact, to be honest, the special effects in this are definitely a step down from the first two.
Yeah.
Which is funny because the technology in theory should be better. But they did get a little more ambitious with the motion of the alien, and it was done with a rod puppet. And then they like painted out everything around the rod puppet. But the problem with that is when you put that alien into the movie scene, it doesn't match.
Yeah.
Like the lighting is different or something, and there's like hard matte lines around it.
It doesn't look. It looks like it doesn't belong. Like it's not really there.
Yes.
Because it isn't.
Yes, and then the bad thing is a lot of the alien footage is that, and so it's not scary because it takes you out of it.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a single moment in the first two movies where I saw the alien and thought, like the first two movies. Every time I saw the alien, I thought it looked great, And the first one you don't see it hardly at all. But in the second one, I mean, they're focused on motion and story, and so you don't really think about it. But I did feel like that was a big weakness of the movie, is that the alien doesn't look near as good. And this only gets worse in the next one.
I mean, let me put it this way: like Alien 3, I thought was it missed it. It was not a good movie. Alien Covenant, I thought it was hilariously bad. As far as I'm concerned.
Oh, Resurrection.
Resurrection.
Okay.
Resurrection. That's what I mean. But that one was like, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't exist. It's not canon.
Well, we're going to talk about that one next on our next podcast because I decided that just now.
Okay.
Because I have kind of an unpopular opinion when it comes to Alien Resurrection, and I think we could have some interesting back and forth. On it.
I mean, yeah. Okay, we'll talk about it then. I got a couple thoughts too.
But I want to say it feels like we're ragging on the movie too much. I want to talk about the good things in it though.
Yeah.
The things that I liked. Number one, I think his name is Charles Dutton, who plays the black guy who's the religious leader.
Oh yeah, he was great.
He's phenomenal in the movie, and also Charles Dance, who plays the doctor. Mm-hmm. I love him and Ripley's relationship. Like he plays this really something about him is just really interesting to watch on screen, and the fact that he's very kind to her is a nice counterpoint to everybody around her. And like I said, and also when her and Charles Dutton have that relationship to the last part of the movie, that's what keeps me watching, is I think those two have an interesting relationship. And so she loses the doctor because the alien, as soon as he gets really interesting, the alien kills him.
Yeah.
And then she gets that relationship with Charles Dutton. And so for me, the acting, and even in the smaller parts, some of it's a little bit, like the guy who plays the crazy guy.
Yeah.
First off, he works a lot better in the longer version, because you see that he gets obsessed with worshiping the alien.
Yeah, and he frees the alien.
He frees the alien. I liked that a lot, actually.
Yeah. Well, it kind of reminded me of remember Brett from the first Alien movie?
Yes.
He looks at the alien in awe.
Yes.
He doesn't scream. He's just like, oh. And here, I feel like they developed it more. He not only is in awe, he he worships it. He wants to free it. He wants to serve it. I thought, that's...
And he gets killed for his trouble.
Yeah. Well, that's what you get.
But I like a lot of the acting. I also, this is a really little weird thing, and I'm not in favor of salty language all the time, and I don't use a lot of swearing myself. But I believe, I'm going to make a big statement here, that Alien 3 has the best delivery of an F word in any movie in cinema history. And it is my favorite. Like, okay, so remember the scene where they're in the mess hall?
Okay.
And the big boss guy's there. And she runs in trying to tell him the alien's here, and he's like, shut up, go back to the thing. And the alien reaches down, grabs him, rips him up to the ceiling. Blood goes everywhere. It's this horrible scene, and there's this long pause, and one of the inmates says the F word, and I die every time I watch it.
He said, we're effed. I'm like...
It's my favorite use of that word in any movie in cinema history.
Well, I think it's it's like the most human one. I think a lot of us might say something like that, and that's...
There's little things like that throughout the movie that keep me watching it. It is a little dark for me, a little bit... I don't know, people call it nihilistic, but like I'm trying to say positive, not just the actors, but I also really like the look of the film. Mm-hmm. I think is very good. I love the design of the prison, and especially I love, and this is another reason why I like the longer version. The beginning of the film in the longer version is gorgeous. Oh yeah,
like you get to really take in all of the outside of the prison. There's actually a really good scene where you get to see Clemens off in the distance, and he's separated from like the rest of the prisoners, and it's kind of cool because you realize he's kind of like separate from them.
He's a loner.
Yeah, he's a loner. Mm-hmm. You never really see him have any camaraderie with the other prisoners. Everyone else kind of has like a family, and he's kind of off somewhere else to himself.
Well, and I love that Ripley washes up on shore. She's got those weird, worm things all over.
Yeah, it's like lice.
Else. And like he picks her up and takes her back. Like I love the opening of the film in the longer version. And talk about, like I said, David Fincher is famous for having a really good eye, right? Like all of his movies are gorgeous in their own way, and this one's no exception. Like I know even though he hates the movie and he's disowned it, those are his visuals though. I think most by and large because they're gorgeous. And I love the way like there's the scene where the guy gets chopped up in the fan. Yeah. That scene is really atmospheric and really well lit, and I love the fact that it feels claustrophobic, but it also feels kind of big. So I'm saying, like, positively, I think the movie looks great. I think it was designed well, and I think a lot of the acting is really good. To not be too much piling on the negative things. What things took out to you that you liked?
Well, I will say that they had a lot of good sets. There was, as far as I could tell, there wasn't really any CGI.
I don't think so, because Terminator 2 is being filmed basically at the same time. And Terminator 2 is the big... then Jurassic Park are the big CGI starts. So I don't think there's any CGI in the film. Or if there is, it's very minimal.
Yeah, very, very minimal. But, there's an opening scene where you see, like, the part of the ship separate from the Sulaco, and the little pod falls down. And
I'm
you
pretty
see
sure that's motion control model work.
Yeah, motion control model work. But what I thought was really impressive was when you see it burning through the atmosphere.
Yes.
But that's, like, they did some sort of trick with, like, the paint or something, where they make it glow red, and then, they make it stop, and then make it glow red for another cloud. I thought that was really good. It was really good for the kind of atmosphere. But I will say the sets look pretty good for what they're going for. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it's what I would pick. But in terms of like they were going for like a more industrial kind of look, and I think it looks like it was a place that they used to refine and do stuff because that's what the whole thing is. The prison it used to be a mining kind of colony.
It's like a lead works, something like that.
Yeah, lead works because they tried dropping molten lead on the alien later on.
Which I think is a nice touch, too, because they drop the molten lead, right? And then it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And then the idea is, okay, it must be super hot now, so let's put cold water on it, and then it cracks and blows up.
Expand.
That was cool. I thought that was creative. I mean, you have to think of a creative way to dispose of the alien. And the first two movies sent it out into space. Yeah. So you can't do that again.
Yeah. I mean, like, the second one, it was like, we kind of forgave it, because, like, okay, because you had, like, a little mech battle at the end.
Yes.
So,
and after that, I was like, yeah, whatever. This is fantastic.
Yeah, this is great. But if you do it a third time, like now you're just being repetitive.
Yes.
But yeah, I thought that was an interesting way to get rid of it. There was one CGI part. The part where the alien, cracks and shatters and explodes.
Was that CGI?
The cracking part was CGI. I don't know about the actual explosion, but the crack was CGI.
The explosion looked pretty practical.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's so quick you could barely even notice it. I don't think I noticed it the first time.
Well, and like I said, when we get to Alien Resurrection, they use CGI all through that, and it looks terrible. Yeah. So I'm glad that they didn't use too much CGI.
So that's one thing I will commend the movie for, is that they stuck to a lot of the practical effects, which I think is great because it gives the everything a sense of tangibility. Like, you can actually touch it, and God forbid it touches you.
Well, can I say this? And I want to talk about this. If you were to pick, which scene do you work as better? Does the alien come out of the ox or out of the dog? Which one do you like better?
Well, I think it works better, coming out of the ox.
Okay.
And it makes sense because, they take the oxes out there to, basically salvage Ripley and salvage the ship. So maybe an ox, that was off to the side, gets, face hugged.
But it's a verb now.
But when I watched the theatrical version, I was thinking to myself, well, when would the dog have been exposed to the alien? I don't remember. It just didn't make a whole lot of sense.
Well, it's like barking, and then it shows the face hugger coming around the corner.
Yeah.
It shows it, but I don't know if it makes a lot of sense. And also, I really liked the fact that they were using animals to haul stuff in. I don't know, it gave a nice flavor to it that wasn't. They didn't bring their hoverboard out there, and it felt very down to earth.
Yeah, kind of like how in Star Wars, there's a lot of places that are really technologically savvy, like Coruscant, but there's still some places that are kind of still relying on manual labor, things like that. Like Tusken Raiders, they still have to ride those. I'm gonna call them space bison just because I don't know their actual.
I don't know what their actual name is either. I should turn in my Star Wars card. I should know that.
But yeah, there's still riding on animals to get from point A to point B. While everyone else is flying in spaceships and speeders, shooting lasers.
And Star Wars is famous for all its creatures, but again, Alien, the only aliens in Alien are the alien.
Yeah, the xenomorphs, the ones that want to kill you. How about
and then later on, of course, we have the engineers, but for now, it's just the aliens. But I really liked the ox thing. The only thing I'll give them, I understood why they did the dog, because dogs are fast. And they made a fast, kind of four-legged, an ox, because it seems like the idea is that whatever being that the alien gestates in, it takes things from that being, right? And so if I would be interested in seeing what an ox really brought to the alien, because in this movie it's very fast, it kind of runs on all fours, it's very dog-like in a lot of ways. So I see why they did that. Yeah. But, like an alien who maybe is a little bit slower but is super strong and bulky, that could have been interesting. So I'm, again, what if? But I also kind of like the ox better just because it was an interesting visual. Like, it's not something you think about. I get the dog thing because people like dogs and they get attached. But let's see. What else I wanted to ask? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say they actually got a dog to dress up as the alien for one of the
those
effects.
Are hilarious. I've seen the tests on that.
And the problem was that the dog was just kind of really unfocused. It would get distracted easily. So the only shot they can get of it was running from behind. And looking back on it, I could tell it's a dog. It's a dog dressed up as an alien. That's what it is.
Yeah, well, you have to try because you never know. But so going back to the many different things that led to the movie being the way it is, we had Vincent Ward's story about the monks in the big wooden planet, which I wanted to see and you didn't, and fair enough.
Yeah.
And then we had other writers that came in, but then they got David Fincher, and I wanted to mention about this. David Fincher had never made a movie before. He'd made the really famous smoking fetus ad for the anti-smoking society. He made a bunch of music videos with Madonna and whatever else. And I think what this is, and you see this today too, that's what I want to bring up, is this still happens, is a studio has a property, right? And they're like, okay, we want to make a third version of this, but we want a director we can control. We want somebody we can tell what to do. And so they hire somebody who's brand new. This has happened with Star Wars. This has happened with Marvel with varying degrees of success. Don't get me wrong; it's not always a bad idea. But you notice that there'll be a guy and he'll make one small budget movie, right? And then they'll snatch him up to make Jurassic World, or they'll snatch him up to make Rogue One, or they'll snatch him up to make Ant-Man. So that's happened over and over again. And I think that's this whole idea is I can control him. First off, they didn't know this; not their fault. No one controls David Fincher. He is the most bullheaded, this is my vision, I will eat your arm, rather than give up on it. And the only time he had to give up on a movie was this one, which is his first movie. From then on out, there was no compromises, which is why he's a filmmaker who doesn't make that many movies, because he'd rather walk away than make it not the way he wants to make it.
Well, I commend a director for doing that. I think if I want to work on a project, I want to get it done the way I want to get it done. If it's just going to be changed and altered, there's no passion behind it.
Yes, because then you're just an employee. Yeah. You're not an artist, doing a vision. And I think the reason that people are like, oh, it's such a shame that he did this, whatever else. I don't think of it that way. I think Alien 3 and the horrible experience he had in Alien 3 taught him to go in very cautious and only go in when you get to do it your way. And that's why we've gotten so many classic movies from him, because he learned he had to go in and be persistent. Mm-hmm. So I'm really glad Alien 3 happened, because I think it birthed Seven and Fight Club and Zodiac and Social Network and all of these amazing movies that he's made since then. Just a positive way to look at it.
Okay, yeah, that is a good way to look at it. I mean, so if Alien 3 didn't happen, we wouldn't have had several other movies that were pretty good. I haven't seen Seven or Fight Club, but I hear those ones are really iconic and they're really quote a lot. If first rule about Fight Club, don't talk about Fight Club, or what's in the box.
What's in the box? Yes.
But I need to go see those at some point. But I think those are proof that he can direct when he's allowed to do his throughout implement his creative vision without being interrupted.
Well, and can I say this? Like, I also found out that he was approached several times by Fox back in 2003, 2004 about, hey, come back, we'll give you control, make your director's cut of Alien 3. And he said, never. So, like, he said, I'm done with it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to look at it. Like, he hates it.
Oh, my gosh, it's awful.
And so they went back and they just took the longer version is just the earliest cut of it they have, I think, which has all the stuff in it. So it's not really his director's cut. And he won't even talk about it that much. Like, he's just done with it.
Yeah, well, it just sounded like a very miserable experience. Like, he'll get heated because, the studio, there's always... What was funny is that in some ways it kind of reminded me of the Alien movie itself. There's always the guy in the suit watching to try to, get, money... that they shouldn't have.
True.
And so that's what would happen. They'd always leave somebody from 20th Century Fox would always be hiding and like, no, you gotta do it this way, to get more money. It's like, oh, you're 20th Century Fox is Weyland-Yutani in Alien 3. I think that's the way to look at it.
The irony. And they just want to keep making the alien. They want to keep it alive.
Yeah.
That's a really good analogy.
Yeah. Yeah. They want to. Oh, the alien survived this way. Like. I'm just thinking, like, as far as I'm concerned, the canon, it ended after Aliens. Alien 3, it's just like, how did the alien possibly survive? They never explain that.
Well, how did they show an egg on the ship?
Yeah.
How in the world did an egg get on the ship? The alien queen we've seen has to get the big shootout, and she has to lay an egg.
Yeah.
She had no time to lay an egg. I mean, she was hidden on the ship when it came back up, but then... Like, they blew her away, and the ship that she was hiding on is not the ship they leave on, and it makes no sense whatsoever.
Yeah, it doesn't. So, yeah, it's a good take on it. 20th Century Fox is Weyland-Yutani in the real world, because they want to keep the alien alive.
At all costs.
At all costs. It doesn't matter. Sacrifice, the good main characters, just for the sake of keeping the alien alive, to make more money.
I can't believe I never thought of that. That's very clever. And it's so funny that they're making a movie condemning their own practices, and they don't even realize it.
Yeah, well, I think it's just kind of sometimes people just don't connect the dots, and
I didn't, so that's fair enough. Anyway, like I said, I guess point being, there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. It's just in a mess. The whole movie's kind of a mess, and that's what happens when you don't have one vision leading through the whole thing. Mm-hmm. What are the other things you wanted to bring up before we finish our discussion on Alien 3 here?
Okay, well, there were some things that I really liked. For instance, you brought up Dutton.
Yes.
His character was
Dylan was his character.
Dylan.
Yeah.
Dylan Dutton. Confusing. But on the positive, I do think he's the best character. I kind of like how he's leading the other prisoners. And I forget what exactly it is Ripley says, but like, what are you doing here? And he says, I'm waiting for our Lord to return. And I just thought, oh man, this guy really believes it. I mean, I don't know if he's right or wrong, but I mean, he just has a real passion behind his beliefs. And I think that's kind of reflective of how some criminals are. They've been in there so long, and they realize what they've done is so bad that all they have left is God.
Well, can I say he's a fascinating character because he's developed a strong faith, and yet he has an incredible temper that he barely keeps under control most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so you still see that old version of himself, it's kind of constantly peeking through. And yet that temper is what drives him to take action as well. He's a very well-rounded character. I like a lot of his stuff.
Yeah. So he was a good character. Some of the characters I didn't care for were, well, some of the side characters. There were a lot of I'm going to just call them the British throwaways of the cannon fodder.
There's a lot of British actors, weren't they?
Yeah. And look, I don't want to sound racist towards British people, but I'll be honest, I couldn't understand the accents sometimes. I had to turn on the subtitles.
I don't know if that's racist or not. But yes, I didn't think about that, but I turned the subtitles on too. So
yeah, and like there were just some things I didn't make a lot of sense. Like for instance, there was one part it felt a little bit off. They're like running through a hallway and two of them crash into each other. Like, oh, I thought you were the Beast. And like, oh yeah, I was gonna come out. And then they're like laughing, and then one of them gets eaten. And I just thought that's kind of funny, but at the same time, it feels out of place.
It's the tonal shifts are rough. Yeah, I'll give you that. Let's see. Oh, and there's like several. I noticed this too. Somebody was bringing this up in a video I watched. There's several characters that they just disappear from the movie. Like they're side characters, and they don't die. They just disappear because they had too many characters. There was too many cooks in the kitchen. Nobody had an idea of what was going to happen with all of them, and so they just disappear from the movie. And one guy's character, the crazy guy, I think, his accent changes like halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
Like he didn't have a British accent, and then all of a sudden he has like a thick British accent.
Yeah.
So there's all these things that really point to like we didn't know what was going to happen, and we were just kind of winging it. And there was a guy I wish I could give him credit, on Facebook, or on YouTube, I'm sorry, who made a video. If I remember, I'll give him credit. Who actually, he's from England, and he did an interview with one of the guys, and that's where he brought it up. He said, the guy was like, yeah, they never filmed my death scene. I was supposed to die, but they didn't even film it. And he was one of the side guys. And then happened with several other people. So if you really watch it with a fine eye, you'll see lots of the little cracks that start to come through.
Okay, yeah, I might do that sometime. But I'm trying to think. Yeah, there was just in terms of production problems. I mean, one thing that I thought was kind of crazy. There was never a concrete script, according to John Landau. I believe it was. I forget what John Landau's job was. But yeah, there just was never a concrete script. So it just. Okay, John Landau was the executive vice president of feature production.
Oh, okay.
He was set on breaking Fincher's contemptuous nature towards Fox. So he was kind of like the middleman between, Fincher and Fox. But even he admits, we didn't have a script, so it's just kind of, it's very frustrating to everybody when, nobody seems to have a plan. The plan is just whatever we say it is.
The thing I thought was so weird is they set a release date before they had everything decided. So it's like, okay, this is coming out in, I don't remember, the summer of 92 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that's 2 years away, and that's when it's coming out. But we don't have anything ready yet. So why in the world would you set a release date? And then, okay, that's fine, but when it's not coming together, push it. Give them more time. It's a problem that movies have nowadays, too. I'm going to quickly go into Rise of Skywalker. Rise of Skywalker was super rushed, and you can tell, because they set a release date, and then for whatever reason, they must meet that release date. And the thing that I don't understand is because film lasts forever. Mm-hmm. This movie, once it's out, it will be out forever, right? And so screw the release date. Find a good time to release it, that's fine. But once it's done, it's done. It's out there. You can't go back and, unless George Lucas, you can't go back and fix it, fix it.
I thought I should put in Jabba the Hutt, It was important to the story. Putting the rock in front of R2-D2, that was very important.
All right, you know what? We're not even going to start there. It's a Pandora's box that we can't afford to open. But I'm just saying, I get frustrated with that. And again, the thing that's frustrating about this particular movie and learning about it is that it seems like no one has learned anything from it. Yeah. Because there are so many instances of this exact same thing happening now, with all these big movies. It has changed nothing. So, okay, soapbox, I'm done. I liked a lot of things in your notes that you made, the favorite parts that you went over. Mm-hmm. Do you want to talk about a lot of those? Because you picked up on a lot of really good stuff that I didn't mention. Yeah,
well, I think, okay, let's see. Dylan's speech to the prisoners to go down fighting. Yep. Yeah, that was pretty inspirational. He's just like, hey, look, this thing's going to kill us one way or another.
I love that there's like, we're all going to die. It's just a matter of when, and this is as good a place as any. I don't know, for some reason it felt very inspirational. It worked for me.
I know. It was good, so I like that. Dylan re-educating the brothers. I should have put that in quotations. Because it's the part where like Ripley almost gets raped by some of the prisoners, and then Dylan comes in and he just smashes on the head of the bar. And what's funny is you can see a little piece of, I like to say brain. I know it's a piece of flesh, but it's a piece of brain just hanging from the pipe that he was using to hit him. Like, I got to go re-educate the brothers. I just thought, oh, okay, that's awesome. I love
Well, and I also love the scene that at the end of that, Ripley gets to punch that guy really hard in the face too.
Yeah,
it's very satisfying.
So that was pretty good. Dylan talking about his faith with Ripley. How just
it was a good scene.
Yeah, it was pretty good. I liked it. There's also I don't know if I mentioned here, but the funeral scene when they're throwing Hicks and Newt into the fire pit, and he's just kind of giving like a eulogy. Yeah. Ripley leading the prisoners in a plan to kill the alien. Where they try to getting all those high explosives because they want to trap it in the room and then they want to blow it up.
Right.
So that was kind of cool, seeing it do the plan. It, of course, fails immediately. And everyone gets, burned alive. Incinerated, burned alive. But it was nice seeing them all kind of come together for that cause. The opening sequence in the extended cut, I believe I mentioned it earlier.
How one of my favorites too.
Earth is like a painting, and then seeing it come down the atmosphere. Ripley explained having no weapons at a prison is stupid. Okay, it's not a favorite part, but I thought it was worth mentioning because I thought I could never confirm it, but I heard rumors that Sigourney Weaver said she didn't want to be in Alien 3 if there were guns.
I found it. It's confirmed.
It's confirmed.
Yes.
But I think it's funny is that it's
they
almost
give her character the...
Yeah, her character is having the lines saying like, yeah, it's all like you are in a maximum security prison and you have no weapons of any kind. It's almost like she's acknowledging, oh yeah, this is really dumb. There's no weapons.
How about this? Ripley would think that was dumb. Sigourney Weaver didn't want guns in the movie. And she's able to separate the two somehow. So, I remember when she made Aliens... that was the first time she'd ever fired a gun. And she was against it when they first talked about it. I remember, I don't know if we discussed that when we talked about Aliens, but she's very anti-gun for whatever reason. I'm not making a judgment call. I'm just saying that was one of her things. She was a producer on this film. This is the first time she was a producer. It was on Alien 3. So she had a lot more say. And she also got a bonus in pay for shaving her head, I found out.
Yeah, and I also found out that they had to bring her back for another reshoot, and her hair had grown out at some point, so they had to make a bald cap with a little bit of fabricated hair, which in itself was actually pretty expensive to make for a reshoot because she didn't want to cut her hair again. So look, I like Sigourney Weaver as an actress, but I think sometimes she might be a little bit too unflexible. Sometimes, not all the time.
Yeah, fair enough. And then I like this last scene that you bring up, the Ripley scanning when she finds the alien inside of her.
Yeah,
that is a really interesting scene. What was about that scene that stuck out to you?
Well, what stuck out to me was that she's it's like you can kind of get a sense, what is she scanning for? It's almost like she already knows it's there, and you just have this feeling of dread, and then it's she's looking, can't find it, and then she finds it, she slowly zooms in on it, and you're like, oh,
well, because she's dead at that point.
Yeah,
it's a death sentence.
It is.
Yeah,
and at that point you just know that just the dread. It's just, man, she saw it happen to so many people, and now it's going to happen to her. It's kind of depressing, actually.
So the whole movie is.
Yeah, yeah. It's sometimes its existence to me is is depressing, but.
Well, I really liked also. This is a quote that you put down from Roger Ebert, and I think it does sum up things very, very well. Just the first sentence of this. It says, Alien 3 is one of the best-looking bad movies I have ever seen. It is a triumph of art direction and a disaster of screenwriting, and the eyes appreciate it more than the mind. I think that's one of the reasons I love Ebert, actually, is he's able to sum up so well an entire movie's positives and negatives in 2 sentences. That's said better than anything I could ever state. I've spent the last, 40 minutes trying to say that.
I know. I think that's a good way to put into words. I think that probably encapsulates my main problems with it. I mean, I go on and on about certain things, but I think that's the gist of it. On some final notes, I just have some personal thoughts. I wrote
Sure.
these down because like last time I forgot to put. I'm like, I need to talk about that. But, anyways, I just want to say it was well made, but kind of lacks a clear vision. You know, like we were talking earlier. It just seems like too many cooks in the kitchen. Fox wants this, Fincher wants that.
Right.
And then Sigourney Weaver saying, wants this thing, or with the gun thing. And I'm sure there were some other things too. Biggest problem is that it undoes the victory of the last film by killing off Hicks and Newt.
True.
And I should have added in Bishop. I mean, he's not technically dead. He's basically dead.
Yeah.
So that's always been a problem for me. I hate it when movies undo the victory of the last movie.
Roger Skywalker. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah, right. Well, I was going to say the whole trilogy too, but I mean,
yes, you can make an argument, but even specifically, bringing the Emperor back literally undoes the victory at the. Keep going.
I mean, what was the point? Okay, let's talk about that sometime. Everyone being bald makes the characters hard to distinguish.
That is true.
So it's kind of hard to remember who certain people are. Like, who is that? Like, I thought it was this bald person number 5, so okay. Religious Prisoners was not a bad idea, but the film feels like it never really commits to either of those ideas.
I totally agree with that. And I think that comes from, we're taking bits from Vincent Ward, we're taking bits from other writers, and we're just keeping little things. And when you do that, you never land on what the theme is, or what your main idea is. And I really think that's a good, pick one. Mm-hmm. And if you're going to have religious prisoners and religion's going to be their big thing, then I could have done with more of that. Mm-hmm. Like I said, I liked that part of the movie, but I could have done with more of it. I didn't feel like it really leaned into that like it could have. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I'm totally on board with your assessment there.
Yeah, so these are just some thoughts I thought would make the movie better. Just something I had to get off my chest. I really didn't like the autopsy scene.
It does seem like I admire them for going for something like that. At the same time, it seems very ill-advised.
Yeah. It's kind of like, if he just said, yeah, I checked and then there's nothing. Okay, fine, just leave it at that.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him pull up bloody two, go in the chest. I'm English.
Well, and this is... It's not the point of the movie.
Yeah.
Like, if it really served a purpose in the movie, I would get it. But it doesn't seem to serve any purpose other than to, prolong the misery of a little girl dying. Like I said, there's other movies that have had violence against children and other really horrible things. But if it serves a purpose, I understand. The autopsy, being as graphic as it was, didn't seem to serve any purpose in the story. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm missing it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I didn't particularly like that either.
Okay, the color palette is very brown and rusted, which isn't always appealing to look at.
Fair enough. It doesn't bother me as much, but I could have done with some more variety. I still think it's a good-looking movie.
Yeah. And I will admit that's more to my personal taste. Mm. I definitely appreciate the looks of the first Alien and Aliens. But, I mean, some people like the more industrial kind of rusted look.
Can I say nothing's going to look as good as the first one? I mean, the first one is... You could take almost any frame from Alien and put it on a wall. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, especially I think the egg scene. That's probably the best egg hatching scene throughout the whole series.
The detail in the first one I've noticed is higher. The eggs have just more texture to them. And the alien itself feels a little more real and alive than any of the sequels. You give up some of that in Aliens because you're going to have a lot of them and you're going to have motion. But I really felt like the attention to detail in the first one was never matched again in the later movies. So, I guess I agree.
Okay. The stakes weren't as high going back to just one alien, and it wasn't different enough to truly make it interesting.
Yeah.
So, because I thought, okay, if you're going to deal with one alien, why don't you do something? I just didn't think it was that interesting. Oh, well, it came out of a dog or an ox this time, and it moves a little bit differently, and okay. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to get across when I was saying the first one has its things and the second one has the queen, and there's always something new, and this one doesn't feel new at all. Mm-hmm. I know the alien was redesigned technically, but it's such small, minor adjustments, it doesn't feel like a different creature. Yeah. And it doesn't have to feel like a totally different creature, but it should do something interesting, something new. Mm. And I agree, I didn't feel like it did anything new. So...
Yeah, so that's just something that always kind of bothered me. it made me very unexcited to see the alien, because like whenever the alien in the first movie or the aliens in the second movie showed up, it was always like a big event. It's like, oh, it's there. What is it going to do? Get away.
Well, and it's also shown in like bright sunlight in this one for the first time, which also kind of takes the mystery away. You see it and it's right there, and yeah, it looks good, but I don't know, something about the fact that they're lingering on it too. Like even Aliens doesn't linger on them. If you watch them, like you'll get like a shot and they're shooting them and they're kind of blowing up, but it's really quick. It's fast. And this one, there's that scene especially that's kind of an iconic scene where it's the alien's going right up to Ripley and it's right next to her head. And that just stays on the alien for forever. And it's a bright room, it's well lit, and it really does kind of kill some of the mystery about it. And that again is a problem that will just get worse as the movies go on. Like Alien Resurrection is bad about that. Prometheus is somewhat bad about that. Alien Covenant is really bad about that. So, portent of things to come, I guess is what I'm saying.
I understand. I know. I think that's very interesting, because here's the way I look at it. I was telling you in the car that I really thought I watched the movie Oculus. And what's scary about that movie is that you can't always see the force that's causing them all these crazy things to happen. And that's what makes something scary, is that the fact that you can't always see it coming.
Yes.
In fact, most of the time you can't see it coming.
Well, and that's fine. I mean, if you want to trade it off, right? If you don't want the alien to be as scary, then you've got to do something else to make it interesting. And they didn't do either. So, there you go.
I know. So that's the problem, the stakes weren't raised. Because like in the first one, it was like, oh, we've never seen anything like this before. And the second one, like, okay, not only do we know the alien is hard to kill, but now there's like 100 of them. And there's an alien queen making more of them. I mean, like, they didn't know it, but you know what I mean. It was just a new element that made the alien seem more threatening. So I felt like with this one, there just wasn't something new that raised the stakes of, the threat level. Well,
and can I say that because all the prisoners are terrible people, it's hard to care that they're being hunted down by the alien. In Aliens, that's one of the strengths of that movie is all of those, they may be kind of cliche characters, but they're really well performed, they're really well defined, and so all of the colonial Marines, I kind of like them.
Yeah.
And you kind of get to where you're, especially with that main core group, you care about them, and so you don't want them to get hurt or eaten or whatever else.
I know.
I never really felt that way in this movie. I didn't particularly care when any of the prisoners got, except for Charles Dance, when the doctor gets eaten, and that was too early, and it pissed me off.
Yeah, or like with Dylan, but he dies near the end of the movie, so it's not. It's kind of like he lived his life expectancy. So,
and the whole point of his character was he can face death and not be afraid of it. So I get that, but I just like comparing it to the previous movies. I cared a lot more about the previous characters, and that raises stakes, right? Because if you really care about them, then you're like, oh my gosh, I hope nothing happens to them. But it doesn't feel as important in this one because it's like, well, normally I can't tell them apart, which is a really good observation because they're all the same and they just become generic alien cannon fodder. So
that's how I felt about it. It's just like, oh, bald guy number 5 got killed. Okay,
exactly. What do you care? And it's not scary. It's gory.
Yeah,
but it only goes so far.
Yeah, so. I mean, like after Dance gets killed, the only people I care about living really are Dylan and Ripley. And there was another guy I should have mentioned him before. His name's, remember, 85. He's like one of the guards, and they call him
his IQ.
His IQ. And so I think that guy, he was kind of good. Okay, but honestly, when he gets whacked off, I'm not the least bit upset.
Yeah, exactly. And he dies right at the very end too.
Yeah, he dies at the very end too.
The Weyland-Yutani people shoot him. Kill him.
And also he just doesn't. He never feels like a part of the group. Like he wants to participate to help defeat the alien. It kind of seems like, we should not do whatever you guys are doing. We should help Weyland-Yutani when they show up, and then Weyland-Yutani takes him out, which is, I guess, maybe a lesson that, hey, look, you got to be a team player, otherwise you're just going to get... Oh, yeah, and Weyland-Yutani is bad, in case anybody forgot.
I was going to say, they've been bad for a long time, in every movie.
Okay, let's see. Too many ideas that weren't fully realized. I think we've pretty much covered that. Yeah. Okay, then this is one I kept bringing up. A good sci-fi movie, but a bad alien movie.
Well, and can I say, my final thought is, I don't begrudge people who love this movie, because it does have a passionate little group of people who just love it. A lot of them think it's the best of the movies. Now, that's obviously not the majority opinion, but I don't begrudge them, because I see a lot of the merits of it, And even the things that detract from it, I can see how you would like them. So just because we kind of poo-pooed the movie, don't let that dampen your enthusiasm for it, I would say. Because
for sure.
Even us, who didn't particularly like the movie, there's a lot to appreciate here. And to be honest, I don't dread going back to it now, actually. Especially after seeing the theatrical cut. I'm like, oh my gosh, give me the longer one right now. So, like, I could go back and watch the longer one, and I think I will in the future. So, it's not like a movie that I'm going to wipe off of my list. I do prefer to kind of think of the first two as their own thing, and this almost separately, because I don't want to contaminate those first two, because those first two are just basically perfect. But like I said, I'll revisit this. I think it's got a lot of good stuff in it. And so, like I said, 3 out of 5. It's not a great movie. Got a lot of problems, but it's got a lot to recommend.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I don't think I'd give it a 3 out of 5. I'd probably give it a 2 out of 5 at best. But I think it's worth going back to just to learn from it. Because, like, one of the things I said is that there were too many ideas that weren't fully realized. Yeah. But here's the thought. What if you did take one of those ideas from the movie and you did fully realize them? For instance, the religious prisoners, and Ripley, bringing the devil. I thought that was a good concept. I just think, it wasn't focused on enough.
Just like everything else in the movie.
Yeah. So there's a lot to learn from watching Alien 3. It's certainly not my favorite.
No.
Definitely not. But I will say it's not as bad as Resurrection. But Resurrection is kind of like a movie. I feel like somebody wrote on fan fiction. Someone's like, yeah, we should make a movie out of that.
That's actually not an unfair thing. I just don't know that it's... There's, again, a lot that I weirdly like in Alien Resurrection. Yeah. And I think that's because for years I heard about how terrible it was. And that is the perfect way to go into a movie. Thinking it's going to be total garbage. Then you'll always be surprised that it's not... there's some stuff in there that's pretty good. Now, it's not a good movie.
Oh, no.
But, again, like I said, I find some things in it that I do enjoy. If I was going to rank them, I think this is better than Resurrection. Mm-hmm. But, again, not as good as the first two. They almost go in order for me. Like, the first one's the best, second one's the second, third, and then fourth.
Oh, that's funny how that works. Yeah. Well, I guess that's maybe just a sign it's not making sequels.
Yeah, to be honest. And then I said if we want to, we can get into Prometheus and Alien Covenant, but... I don't know. There's not a single movie in all 5 that I hate. There are things in all of them that I enjoy. Now, I haven't seen Alien vs. Predator, and I haven't seen Alien vs. Predator 2. It's called something.
AVP 2.
Something. Anyway, I haven't seen either one of those, and by all accounts, those are awful. But
I'm probably not going to see them. Just saying, if you wanted to do a thing like to complete the,
I don't feel any need to do that. So
I know, and I think what people like go into them is that they know that they're bad and they just kind of watch it and have fun. And Resurrection, I kind of feel like there were some times where I actually enjoyed it a little bit more than Alien 3. There were some fun times. But at that point, I'd only watched the theatrical version. So honestly, to me, anything with Alien they did differently would have felt better. I don't know. I don't know if I'd feel the same way if I went and watched it now.
Fair enough.
But there's just a lot of parts I just thought, that was stupid, that was stupid, that was stupid. I'm just thinking that throughout the whole movie. That was stupid, that was stupid.
Well, and the tone of that movie is completely different.
Yeah.
It's almost like a parody of an Alien movie in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
I don't know. We will get to it. I think it's interesting to talk about. Maybe we'll lump that one in with some other ones. Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to, just because Alien 3 had so much behind-the-scenes stuff to talk about, I thought it warranted its own show. So anyway, I want to thank you for you were kind of the one that pushed and spearheaded this.
Yeah, well, and I'm just glad to get off my chest.
I like I said, it's fun to talk about the first two, but I think there's a lot that we can, like I said, learn from this one. And so let us know what your favorite Alien movies are. Did we totally miss it? Is this a gem that we should have praised more, or is it total garbage? Just let us know your thoughts, and we will see you again when we talk about Alien Resurrection.